God damn it.
That's one way to start it.
Well, you know, I thought we needed some flair.
Do.
After the success of Metal Gear Solid on the PS1, selling more than 7 million copies and shipping 12 million demos, it was received incredibly well, achieving 93% and 94 out of 100 ratings on Game Rankings and Metacritic, and so many more from other review scores. Magazines such as the PlayStation Official Magazine of the UK call it the best PlayStation game ever, which is exactly what Kojima was looking to do. However, even with all these achievements, which I only mentioned a fraction of, Metal Gear Solid's sales expectations were set actually quite low, so the overwhelming success came as quite a surprise to Kojima, who didn't expect it to sell even half as well as it did. Kojima had begun work on Metal Gear Solid 2 pretty early, as we know from the fact that completing the VR missions disc of MGS1 revealed the classified plans of a new type of Metal Gear. But a lot of development changed quite a bit, which I'll go into later, but some examples. MGS2 was originally meant to be called Metal Gear Solid 3, with the Roman numeral 3, to symbolise Manhattan's 3 tallest skyscrapers. The original design document of MGS2, completed in 1999, even talks about new game mechanics that were to be introduced, such as bodies needing to be hidden away, enemies noticing shadows, the player being able to change the environment around them, like shooting lights out, and enemies using squad tactics instead of individually acting because of improved AI. Kojima wanted to do something new with the cutscenes, seeing what he would be able to achieve in real time and much more with the new hardware of the PlayStation 2. Kojima also decided that the story would focus on a variety of different themes, such as environmental issues, social themes of digitization of the military, simulations, and passing things on to the future. So as you can imagine, things are already looking way bigger, and the excitement around this game gained a lot of traction very quickly, and was a massive selling point for the PS2 on its own merits. I remember that Christmas well, opening up that beautiful blue box and having MGS2 along with it. Would you fucking look at these launch titles? I doubt we will ever get quite as stellar a launch as this ever again. Like I said, the excitement surrounding this game was very intense given the success for the first, but what a way to build up hype for the game. And it didn't get much better than when MGS2 was revealed at E3 in 2000. Oh my god, look at how awesome Snake looks in this. No more pixel faces either. It looks like these guys will actually be speaking instead of just shaking their heads violently to emote words. The rain effects, bodies can be dragged around, you can hang off of railings, the lighting. Ocelot has 2 arms again? Okay. First person aiming and shooting, holy shit. Yoji Shinkawa is back with his awesome artwork, and music by Harry Gregson Williams? Look at the way the new Metal Gear looks, and brother? How can Liquid be back? What the fuck is going on? Metal Gear Solid 1 really changed the face for games, as it opened up how to tell a story within a game itself, and the stealth genre for gaming wouldn't be around in the same way if it wasn't for Metal Gear. So, with Metal Gear Solid getting a sequel after such a success, it was always going to be an exciting time. And on the 13th of November 2001, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty was released on the PS2. Who the fuck's that? In the 2 years after the incident at Shadow Moses, Revolver Ocelot leaked the data of Metal Gear Rex, which was on the optical disc he stole from Snake, to the black market. As a result, many different organizations, terror groups and military factions have all begun creating their own versions of Metal Gear Rex and Rex derivatives. Metal Gear was no longer a top-secret nuclear weapon. It was the next global arms race. Feeling the same remorse from creating Rex in the first place, Otacon teams up with our protagonist Solid Snake to form Philanthropy, an NGO with its main goal to eradicate Metal Gear in all its forms. Otacon and Snake founded this NGO alongside Mei Ling and Nastasha Romanenko, who actually wanted to expose the truth of the incident with a book called In the Darkness of Shadow Moses, with its profits going towards the NGO. If you're wondering where Naomi and Meryl are, well, Snake and Meryl never continued with a relationship due to Snake believing he would only be called back to fighting, which has happened twice at this point, so he, following in what Grey Fox said, fought for what he believed in, and created Philanthropy with Otacon. Meryl still believed in her hero regardless, and she ended up re-entering the military thanks to Campbell's connections. Naomi, however, was arrested on charges of treason and placed in a max security prison, which makes sense when you turn a killer virus on the guy trying to stop the terrorists. However, 3 weeks later she was broken out of prison with the help of an unknown source, with rumours of it being Solid Snake, which hurt his reputation. It's a bitter world, but Snake keeps up the good fight. On August 8, 2007, Otacon had dug up classified intel circulating around the Marine Corps creating their own Metal Gear. Looking to continue the work of Philanthropy, Snake makes his way to the George Washington Bridge, where he activates the stealth camo given to him by Otacon, allowing him to grapple down and infiltrate the Marine Corps ship, disguised as an oil tanker called the Discovery, as the oil tanker is said to be housing the new Metal Gear prototype. Snake's mission being to find out where the ship is headed and to take pictures of the new Metal Gear and post them all over the web so that it would heavily deter the Marines, putting them at a loss. Having a hell of a sense of timing, however, Snake isn't alone. After hearing a Russian helicopter, the ship is quickly taken over by Russian mercenaries led by an unknown man, which Snake photographs for ID analysis. These mercenaries are clearly out for Metal Gear as well, but with not much else he can do, Snake sneaks his way around to the bridge of the tanker, all while avoiding the Russian soldiers. This, of course, wouldn't be the last of Snake's problems. After finding out that the ship is 500 miles past the Bermudas, Otacon and Snake deduce that the new Metal Gear unit is ready for solo testing and already combat-worthy. Snake, hearing a commotion, investigates to see a suspicious woman outside. After eavesdropping, Snake learns that this woman, known as Olga, is with the Russian mercenaries, refusing to leave despite being pregnant. Snake holds her up, which quickly turns into a gunfight, with Olga constantly talking about having nothing except her family, the unit. This gunfight wraps up with Snake tranquilizing her. Oh yeah, right. One of the things Snake is equipped with this time around is an M9 tranquilizer gun, as he went in expecting civilian Marines. But this becomes a staple for the series now, non-lethal means of dealing with enemies. After defeating Olga, a US Army Cypher UAV drone takes pictures of Snake over Olga's unconscious body, greatly concerning both Snake and Otacon. Even more so, Otacon ID'd the photo Snake took, and this guy turns out to be none other than Sergei Galukovich, the very same Galukovich who supplied Liquid Snake with the Hind, the M1 tank and other firepower during the Shadow Moses incident, as he was Ocelot's Russian informant. This time around, Galukovich is doing the dirty work himself, probably due to how things went last time. Man wants his Metal Gear, goddammit. Otacon also feels a little uneasy as he got the information of this new Metal Gear from an anonymous tip, which he never trusted before, but due to it being signed EE, he felt it to be his sister's initials, Emma Emmerich. With more tensions rising, Snake quickly rushes down to the holds, even encountering Snake also ends up dealing with a small batch of Galukovich's soldiers. Snake heads further into the depths of the tanker where the Commandant is giving his speech, kind of sucking their own dicks about how great their Metal Gear is. As Snake heads further in, he quickly reaches the location of the new Metal Gear, now dubbed Metal Gear Ray. Now this is a really fucking cool sequence, with many different ways to head into the room with Metal Gear. My go-to method is hanging and moving across the first floor. Snake gets to work and snaps the necessary photos and uploads them to Otacon, as the speech by the Marine Commandant starts to wind down. Snake observes as he is a little apprehensive to leave given the Russian invasion of the ship. Snake remains hidden when a returning revolver Ocelot comes forward to confront the Marines. Yes, he has both hands. Don't worry, we're getting to it. Snake isn't best pleased about this Thorn from Shadow Moses returning, and if you think about it, he is the biggest problem to philanthropy given the fact that he leaked the info about Rex worldwide. The tensions are high, with Galukovich holding the Marine Commandant hostage. Galukovich reveals that his plan is to steal Metal Gear Ray and to sell it to restore Russia to its former glory, echoing Ocelot's goal in Metal Gear Solid. Then, Ocelot suddenly takes a turn, revealing that he has different plans, saying he was never really working towards restoring Russia. Galukovich accuses Ocelot of working alongside someone named Solidus, who we the player know as the third clone of Big Boss. Ocelot dismissed this as he plans to return Metal Gear Ray to the Patriots, which shocks the Marine Commandant, making him exclaim the lolly-loo-lay-lo. We're getting there. Tensions grow ever higher. Ocelot betrays Galukovich, shooting him and the Marine Commandant Scott Dolph dead. Shocked at the development, both Marines and Russian mercenaries hold up their weapons towards Ocelot, but for some reason they don't fucking shoot him before he blows the Semtex on the key structural points of the tanker, and making his way to the new Metal Gear. Snake springs into action, confronting Ocelot. However, presumably before Ocelot can make some witty remark, his new arm starts twitching, bulging out of the clothes surrounding it. Ocelot's whole demeanour changes, his voice shifts and his whole attitude is different and reminiscent of that of Liquid Snake, who then taunts Snake before boarding the Ray unit and completely destroying what's left of the tanker, with Snake falling unconscious as the tanker sinks, with Ocelot getting away in the Ray unit. The oil from the tanker spilled into the sea off the shores of Manhattan, with Solid Snake named as the terrorist who sank it and supposedly died as it sank. To deal with the oil spill, an offshore cleanup facility known as the Big Shell was set up to clean up the crude oil. On April 29, 2009, the President, James Johnson, started an inspection tour of the Big Shell, but quickly things went bad, with Russian mercenaries and a former special ops group known as Dead Cell attacking the base, holding the President hostage. A returning Colonel Campbell informs Foxhound operative Snake of the details, with the terrorists wanting $30 billion for the return of the President, or they'll blow up the Big Shell, igniting the oil slick, polluting the water ever further, sending New York into the worst environmental crisis ever. Snake sneaks into the Big Shell by swimming into the bottom of Strut A, by swimming through a freshly cut hole in the oil fence. Emerging from the dock at the bottom of Strut A, Campbell calls Snake and informs him that he will be changing his code name to Raiden. Just like before, Campbell tells Raiden about his new skull suit, which helps him perform at maximum efficiency. As Raiden sets off, he quickly realizes he isn't alone, as an unknown assailant has already started beating the crap out of the Galukovich soldiers. The Colonel tells Raiden to access the terminal called a node. This gives us access to our good old Soliton radar in each individual strut we go around in. After doing so, we are introduced to our mission analyst, Rose, who Raiden is actually dating, with Rose calling Raiden by his first name, Jack. We are then hit immediately with the question, do you know what day it is tomorrow? Which, trust me, will not get old any time soon. After this, it's revealed that we are in control of a completely different character. Yeah, this is a big no shit, but keep this in mind. There was absolutely no mention of Raiden anywhere in promotional art, magazines or trailers. This is the twist, and the major swerve of this game is that the main game, we are in control of Jack, better known as Raiden. Now granted, we could already tell that this wasn't Snake, and I was just playing around for the video, but Raiden is pretty dorky and... how do I put this? After reaching the roof of Strut A, Colonel Campbell says that the terrorists are calling themselves the Sons of Liberty, and the terrorist leader is calling himself Solid Snake, explaining why Raiden's codename was changed, to avoid confusion with the terrorist leader. Weird that they wouldn't have done that to start off with if they knew he was the bad guy, whatever. After a codec call of SEAL Team 10, Raiden rushes to Strut B where the President was seen last, but Raiden is met with a grisly sight. Raiden is met with a hallway of blood and slashed up bodies of the SEAL Team 10 soldiers. Raiden hears the slaughtering of the remaining SEAL Team 10 members from our first member of Dead Cell, Vamp, who moves unbelievably quick and is an expert with knives, sucks blood, and, he's also voiced by Phil Lamar.
My manwich!
Vamp is about to get the better of Raiden before being rescued by a SEAL Team 10 survivor before Vamp leaves after smelling his Axe body spray. The survivor identifies himself as Kurt Russell, Snake Plissken, Iroquois Plissken, who immediately recognizes Raiden's suit as Foxhound, and then proceeds to tell Raiden that Foxhound was disbanded, which is odd. Raiden goes on to say how he was heavily trained with VR, the very same VR missions that Snake did in MGS1. I even use this as a headcanon to explain why Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes is so flashy, because Raiden was just doing the VR simulation of the Shadow Moses incident. Plissken seems a little worried about this, as VR isn't as effective as real training, mentioning that VR is tricking the mind of the individual, giving no real experience, basically raising soldiers on video games. They stumble upon a dead Navy captain with a handcuff before Plissken stumbles due to blood loss. Raiden, shocked by the whole ordeal, asks about the Dead Cell member known as Vamp. Plissken briefs Raiden on how Dead Cell was formerly an anti-terrorist training Spec Ops group, but quickly went off the lunatic fringe after their leader Colonel Jackson died in prison. Under orders from Fortune, Jackson's widow, the group became more and more extreme, leading to the government shunning them and branding them as terrorists as they destroyed more and more. We are then shown the last surviving members of Dead Cell: Vamp, Fortune, Fat Man, and Gorge Sears.
Hey look, it's Nick, Rave and Licorice.
Together they joined forces with the leftover Galukovich mercenaries to take over the Big Shell, with Solid Snake leading them. With the president being taken away, Raiden quickly makes a move, but not before Plissken gives Raiden a pack of smokes and a SOCOM pistol. Before he can do that, however, Rose brings up April 30th again, which is getting very annoying very quickly. Apparently this exchange of constantly being asked if he remembers a particular date is something that happened to Kojima. Like, he experienced that himself, which is interesting for sure, but I'm sure it wasn't as toxic as this relationship is as we see it before us. Either way, Raiden, not having a clue about April 30th yet, does however ask Rose for as much info on Solid Snake, having his doubts about him being dead. Raiden moves to the BC connecting bridge, only to see the remaining SEAL's Bravo team members shooting at the Dead Cell member known as Fortune, with bullets literally swerving out of her way, with Vamp taking the president into the Shell 1 core.
Ready grenades! Dud, 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 dud.
Fortune then wipes the Bravo team out with a fucking portable railgun. Oh boy, good luck on this being your first mission, Raiden. You'll be fine.
Oh, did I not say? This is Raiden's first mission, so this is going to go swimmingly.
After the SEAL Team 10 massacre, Campbell tells Raiden to defuse the C4s placed by Fat Man, another member of Dead Cell. Raiden quickly starts to spiral, naturally freaking out before snapping back into it, with Campbell telling Raiden to meet the bomb disposal expert Peter Stillman in Strut C for assistance. Raiden does this with little effort, but with a bit of an itchy trigger finger. Plissken tells Raiden to stop screwing around and relax, clearly showing Raiden's inexperience. In meeting Stillman, the guy to talk about bomb disposal with, talks a lot about Fat Man of Dead Cell, and how he was his former student, seeing a son in him and passing his skills down to him, and how Peter's leg was lost after he failed to defuse a bomb at a church. Due to the fact that the SEAL's bomb disposal squad being, Stillman helps us out by giving us a freezing spray to halt the bombs for 24 hours, and the bombs can be located with a little doohickey that allows us to see the traces of the cologne Fat Man puts on every bomb as a signature. Stillman gives us a level 1 keycard which, and get this, we don't need to ever equip to open doors like MGS1, so we are at the very best the keycards will ever be. And also the last time they're ever really used in a Metal Gear game. It's a shame, but hey, what can you do? So, we enter the bomb disposal stage of the game, which is always way earlier than I remember running through this game again. After Stillman hides inside the pantry, he gives us ideas on where we can find the C4 bombs with advice, but pushing us to use the sensor he gave us. But honestly, you ever play this game again, you'll never forget these locations like ever. It's like riding an explosive bike. After encountering a guy in a cardboard box on a bridge, Raiden quickly starts freezing the bombs, but as he does, Stillman starts getting nervous, as the bombs haven't been placed in effective locations. Thinking there's something wrong or something bigger at play, he tells Raiden to keep at it. Heading towards the roof of Strut E, Raiden encounters Olga Galukovich talking to someone over radio about a cardboard box and a ninja. After being told to freeze, she jumps off a building.
As you do.
Approaching the EF connecting bridge, Raiden gets a call from a mystery source calling himself Deep Throat at first, but settling as Mr. X, warning Raiden of claymores. As we go around freezing bombs, Rose calls us again asking us about the day they met, which, okay, I'll be honest, that is an actual really cute story, but another interruption which Raiden shakes off and then keeps going. On the second to last bomb, Pliskin radios in talking about the bottom of Strut H, with a lot of C4 at the bottom, which would destroy the whole strut, revealing itself to be the real threat, but scentless and invisible on radar, fooling Pete. Stillman then makes the choice to see the bomb for himself, revealing that he faked his leg injury because he felt so much guilt for those who died in the church and the children playing in a park nearby, choosing to make the decision to hide.
Yeah, they present this guy as really sympathetic, but fuck him, to be honest. I don't really like Stillman. He's just a means to an end for stopping the C4.
After freezing the last bomb, Stillman tells us to pick up a second sensor to find the one invisible to radar in the bottom of Strut A. After moving forward, Stillman says how the bomb isn't live, confusing him. But when Pliskin freezes his last baby bomb, the countdown wakes up for the bomb at the bottom of Strut A, a trap specifically for Stillman, as his bomb cannot be frozen due to a microwave. With little time left, Stillman dies as the bomb explodes, crippling Strut H. Shell 1 is unaffected by the bomb.
You can. Why don't you do it?
After Raiden freezes the final bomb, which doesn't have a microwave for some reason, Raiden turns around and begins to make his way back up in order to save the president. The colonel calls to inform Raiden that one of the hostages has been killed as a retaliation for the bomb disposal. As Raiden moves forward, he is met face to face with Fortune, who seemingly expected to meet somebody else. With literally no fucking way to hit her, Raiden does his very best to outlast her, when he receives a call from Colonel Campbell, informing him that Fat Man has placed a bomb on the heliport of Strut E, specifically for Raiden. Which is when Vamp shows up to help finish the job, mentioning that Fat Man has finally gone mad. Raiden, shooting at Fortune as a last-ditch effort, causes the bullets to miss her and strike Vamp, allowing Raiden to keep moving. But somehow, someway, Vamp survives the fatal shots. With no time to rest, Raiden rushes to defuse the bomb on the heliport, which he does very easily, only to be met face to face with Fat Man himself. An intense conversation takes place with Raiden very obviously trying to act as much like a threat as possible. He points out the stupidity of blowing up the big shell, meaning they'll never receive their ransom of $30 billion, which Fat Man laughs at, with almost no knowledge to the ransom at all. Very quickly, Fat Man places more bombs, as Raiden and Fat Man have an intense confrontation, with a mix of fighting and bomb freezing. The setup for this boss fight almost reminds me of a faster, intense Raven fight. Regardless, Raiden freezes the bombs and takes out Fat Man. With his dying breath, Fat Man leaves one last bomb, which is very obvious where he placed it, and it also for some reason freezes the quickest. What is this pose? After this confrontation, Raiden encounters a cyborg ninja with a sword. The ninja, who reveals himself as Mr. X, informs Raiden of the location of the president.
What?
Well, the guy who knows where the president is. A man named Ames, the head of security detail for the president in the core of Shell 1 where the hostages are being kept. And also reveals that a new type of Metal Gear is to be launched from the Big Shell, which is what the president was there for to begin with, because the Big Shell is actually a huge cover-up according to Mr. X. Unfortunately, with the lack of leads, Raiden has no choice but to locate Ames by going into Shell 1. And to sneak in, he needs to disguise himself as an enemy soldier, which Mr. X gives us, along with a level 2 security card, which Raiden uses to equip himself with an AK, a unique weapon and uniform for those who guard the core. Now this section is probably one of the best of the game and one of my personal favourites. Just walking around the guards with no concern for you unless you dick around too much. It's like a half and half stealth camo. In order to find Ames, the cyborg ninja informs Raiden that in order to find him, Raiden should listen out for Ames' heartbeat, as he has a pacemaker, and the only way to hear it is to use a directional microphone. Around this time, during a save, Rose informs Raiden that Solid Snake's body was positively ID'd 2 years ago, despite the right arm being missing, disappointing Raiden, who wished to meet Snake in the flesh. After digging around in Stratef to pick up an AK and other weapons, Raiden heads into the Shell 1 core, and after quickly stealing a directional microphone from a parakeet and a dude hopped up on coffee, Raiden heads into the conference hall where the hostages are being held, including Richard Ames, but very obviously being watched by a nearby Ocelot, who is just here. No fanfare this time. Ames tells Raiden that the president was moved to the first floor of the Shell 2 core, whilst also seemingly a little bit confused when Raiden mentions the hostage that was apparently shot dead. Ames says that the president won't be harmed as the nuclear button must be used to the president's free will, as it measures his vitals to make sure he isn't being forced and has to be reconfirmed hourly. Ames continues to say how the Big Shell was built specifically for the creation of Metal Gear. Just then, the man calling himself Snake enters the room where Ocelot is. Using the directional microphone, Raiden listens in on Johnny's return, as he still has the runt again. But Raiden listens in on Ocelot and Snake, where they mention how the first password entry has been made, and how Fat Man might have been working for the people known as the Patriots, which is when Olga enters and argues with Ocelot about the ninja, feeling something else is going on. It seems that the president is working with the terrorists, as the password entry was put in. Ames then says that the nuclear strike isn't a threat, but the goal to begin with, and there was never any ransom demand made. With a high altitude detonation, it'll pull Manhattan offline due to the EMMA EMP pulse the nuke will cause. Ames then gives Raiden card level 3 to head to Shell 2. But not before Ocelot shows up and confronts Ames, calling him out keeping tabs on the president with knowledge of his betrayal. But suddenly, out of buttfuck nowhere, Ames has a heart attack. Quickly after this, Raiden is unmasked, but quickly saved by the cyborg ninja, which Ocelot is shocked by, allowing Raiden to escape. Raiden is given orders to find the president as soon as possible to stop the second password entry from being completed. Despite being in the middle of a highly secured area, basically surrounded, Raiden manages to get out of the Shell 1 core unscathed. In yet another call with Rose, she brings up how Raiden never speaks to her about his past, or rather anything about him, which Raiden dodges around really badly. This relationship doesn't seem toxic at all, does it? Raiden heads towards the Shell 1 and 2 connecting bridge, only to be met with IR sensors and Semtex. Pliskin tells Raiden that the only way to take out the control units is with a PSG-1, which, if you're doing things right, you'll pick up right after escaping the Shell 1 core. Raiden informs Pliskin of where the hostages are being held. Upon taking out the threat of the Semtex, Pliskin tells Raiden that the best way to get the hostages out is with one of the enemy's Kasakas, and that the pilot is his friend, Otacon, which Raiden recognizes immediately. He calls the Colonel about how everything keeps relating to Shadow Moses, but there's no way Snake could be alive because of the positive ID of the body. In the end though, there's not much that matters except to keep moving. As he does though, he is confronted by the terrorist leader as Pliskin watches from above in the Kasatka, and the terrorist leader greets Pliskin as Snake.
What? Oh my god, no way!
Snake, obviously not happy with being impersonated, attacks who we now know as Solidus Snake, the former president George Sears, who is in contact with Ocelot at the end of MGS1. The following attack from Snake leads to Solidus landing on the Harrier, leaving Raiden with only one choice, to take it down, with help from Solid Snake giving Raiden his Stinger missile launcher, which somehow, someway, very narrowly mind you, he does, resulting in the Harrier crashing into the bridge and Solidus losing an eye, adding to his big boss demeanour. However, as it crashes, Metal Gear Ray emerges from the sea, catching the Harrier. Solidus sends Vamp to go on ahead by having him run on water and up some walls. Yep, that's right, he just did that. Metal Gear escapes with the Harrier under the sea, saving Solidus. Raiden calls Snake to ask if him, Otacon and the Kasaka are alright, and if he is indeed the Snake. Raiden asks him why he keeps fighting, and Snake relays Grey Fox's final message.
There's something my best friend said to me once. What? We're not tools of the government, or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at, but at least I always fought for what I believed in.
Turns out the positive ID from that body was actually Liquid, as they are identical on the genetic level. Raiden is confused as he wants to find his reason to fight. Otacon reveals how he got the info for the big shell, and how his sister is actually involved, which he's also there to save her. Raiden argues with the Colonel about Pliskin being Snake the whole time, which the Colonel really isn't happy about, constantly referring to them as not being a factor in the simulation, and how Raiden's mission remains the same, to save the President. Raiden makes his way forward, going around the heavily damaged Shell 2, which Rhodes comments that the attack from the Harrier is confusing, as if they have no more use for the big shell anymore. Raiden heads into the Shell 2 core and listens into a radio conversation with Olga and Solidus, leading to Olga activating an electric floor preventing anyone getting near the room holding the President, meaning Raiden needs to use a Nikita missile launcher to deactivate the power supply to the electric floor.
Don't test it. You'll be bacon.
After entering the room where the President is, we get an impression of number 45, and Raiden confirms with the President that the initial login entry for the nuclear launch has been made, with the President making it clear that he definitely put it in himself. Raiden questions why the President would do such a thing like stoop to terrorism. The President says how he wants absolute power and is tired of being a puppet. Raiden then reminds him that, he's the fucking President, the most powerful man in the world and all that, and oh wait, it's just Prez. This is where we are hit with the biggest bombshell of all, the Patriots. So, the Patriots. A secret society hidden from all of the world, who are actually the ones in control. Everything from the military, the economy, politics, to even who becomes president, is all in the Patriots' hands. The real rulers of the country. Everything that the president did under each president's reigns are decisions made by the Patriots, even controlling the most people's nanomachines to literally force them to say the lali-lulay-lo instead of the Patriots to continue to keep them a secret. With instructions from the Patriots for the president coming in through a cutout, all with a democracy in government acting as a big show, a huge drama to keep the public suggestible. No one knows who they really are, except they are a group of 12 people known as the Wiseman's Committee, who are the ones who are really making the decisions. The president wanted real power, instead of being nothing more than a playing piece. Turns out he did willingly make the decision to input the launch sequence of the nuke as a way to give the Patriots a bargaining chip to earn his place as a Patriot. However, he didn't know that Solidus actually wanted to challenge the Patriots by using the nuke to liberate Manhattan from the Patriots' control and using the new Metal Gear to fight against them, which the President realizes would be a huge mistake, as the entire functionality of the country would be thrown into disarray, as there would be an infinite vacuum of power and chaos would be the end result. Solidus was a survivor of the Les Enfants Terribles project, and a perfectly balanced clone between Solid and Liquid. Solidus is indeed the former president who was forced into a quiet resignation by the Patriots after the Shadow Moses incident, which was actually orchestrated by Solidus. But this incident was never something the Patriots had planned, with Ocelot being Solidus' most trusted man, provoking Liquid into starting the Shadow Moses incident to begin with. But in doing so revealed the existence of Rex and the Genome Army, which caused the Patriots to remove Solidus from office, and to then organise him to be assassinated, and the Patriots covering it up as George sees his health failing him. However, before this could happen, Solidus went underground, away from the eyes of the Patriots. Laying in wait, he ended up gaining control of Dead Cell and Galukovich's men. Biding his time, Solidus waited for the new Metal Gear project to near its completion so he could steal it from the Patriots and use it for his own needs, and declaring war against the Patriots, which could unravel everything they do, resulting in the global chaos that the President mentioned. Only when the Metal Gear is finished, however. Raiden seems confused as he saw an active Metal Gear, only to find out that that was only Ray, the Marine's countermeasure to the Metal Gears being created after Ocelot leaked the Rex plans to the world, and that the real Metal Gear is right where we have been the whole time. The President explains that the Metal Gear that Raiden saw was only a Ray unit, an anti-Metal Gear Metal Gear, created without the capability of launching nuclear weapons. The real Metal Gear unit is dubbed Arsenal Gear, a massive mobile fortress that has mass-produced unmanned Ray units to guard it. Arsenal has the ability to fire nukes from anywhere on the planet. Not only that, it can access the military's tactical network, allowing it to have absolute control over the nation's armed forces and its nuclear arsenal. However, Arsenal's true purpose was to filter information from the internet and other forms of digital communication, with an AI system called GW. The reason for GW's existence was due to the overwhelming fear of knowledge and digital information flowing out of the Patriots' control, and GW would allow the Patriots to filter and release what content they deem fit or necessary. And honestly, now seems as good a time as any to mention how this game constantly is referred to as Kojima's masterpiece, due to how, seemingly as this game gets older, the more and more relevant the game seems to get. As time passes more, the game's plot and themes seem to crop up in real life, with even more relevancy, from gaming teaching people how to be soldiers, the digital information flow and cesspool of lies in the digital information running rampant with the wave of fake news. Digital manipulation for political gain, the way many people fall into groups of their own beliefs to suit their own gain without furthering one side or even going to prove or disprove other sides, a political echo chamber of two sides saying, "I'm right, you're wrong." To quote the game, "No one is invalidated, but no one is right." With this, many people pick a side rather than try to understand the issue as a whole. In doing this, no one will disprove them, but they'll never know the full truth. And it feels like it's way too much to process. Well, it is. There's a lot to take in here, and a lot is given to you, the player, and especially in the age we live in now, there's more talking points, and I actually think the bombardment of all this information is intentional, really pushing the point of the Patriots' fear of the overflowing of digital information, which they intend to control and manipulate to their whim. And even if this wasn't intentional, it is still something I think about. But now that your brain has been significantly scrambled, let's get back to the game.
Or is it actually real life?
President Johnson talks about how Arsenal and the GW AI system is more than just a weapon, but an entirely new form of control for the Patriots to wield. He goes on to say that by stealing it, he hoped to be able to bargain his way to becoming a Patriot himself, but didn't foresee Solidus looking to start a war against them, and wants to stop Solidus from unleashing total chaos that will be caused if the Patriots are exposed and lose control of Manhattan. The passcode entry served to activate Arsenal Gear, and the AI known as GW is going to fully integrate itself into Arsenal, but it hasn't happened yet, and Arsenal isn't fully operational, and the President reminds Raiden of his role in stopping Solidus. In order to do this, the President tells Raiden to find Emma Emmerich, Otocon's sister. Turns out she's the system programmer for Arsenal, making her the only one who can stop it when it's activated. She is in B1 of the Shell 2 core, which is mostly flooded due to Fat Man's earlier bombings. The President gives Raiden Card 4 and a program for disrupting the connection between GW and Arsenal, which is to be given to Emma to use in the computer room of Shell 1, a computer virus modelled after Foxdie. Raiden agrees to do so before the President then pleads with Raiden to kill him, so that the final check of the nuclear button showing his vital signs is thrown offline, preventing the nuclear strike. Raiden, obviously not wanting to do so, causes a small struggle before the President is shot, by none other than Ocelot, confusing Raiden, but not before he leaves, calling Raiden Carrier Boy. With the President's final wish, he asks Raiden to help put an end to the charade by stopping Arsenal for good. Calling up Campbell to inform him of the death of the President and all the information he was given about Arsenal and the Patriots, Campbell tells Raiden to follow the President's last directive, believing him due to the fact that he would rather have died than let the world fall into nuclear chaos. As Raiden leaves, he calls Snake about what happened, with lots of confusion as to why Ocelot would kill the President, causing them to lose their main goal, unless they have found a more effective weapon inside Arsenal gear, confirming that Snake and Otacon both knew about Arsenal gear and the Patriots because, and I quote,
You never asked.
Snake then talks about the truth behind what happened behind the tanker incident, with Snake and Otacon talking about the fallout of being tricked and used, with the Patriots destroying the tanker, with Snake alluding to Ocelot's little episode with Liquid taking him over, and Snake surviving the tanker sinking because Otacon had a small boat at the ready, leading to more confusion behind why Ocelot killed Golukovich, as it means he must be working with the Patriots, which would mean he's working against Solidus. Regardless of this, Emma still needs to be found to help stop Arsenal, so wasting no time, Raiden gets moving. Another call with Rose has her talking about how Raiden can never open up and is so very afraid and can't relax when he's with anyone. He even had his own room which she wasn't allowed to see. When she did see his room, it resembled a prison cell. Just a desk and a bed, empty with nothing. This has Rose very upset, but Raiden, yet again, blows the argument off to continue the mission, by first getting his feet wet and then seeing a surprisingly held together Peter Stillman who died from the bomb a while back. Otacon calls Raiden and lets him know of a traumatic experience when they were children. Emma was swimming with her father and started to drown. During this, she was calling Otacon for help, but he didn't hear her. Emma survived, but their father didn't. Because of this experience, Emma is deathly afraid of water and can't swim anymore. Leaving that to be a bridge to eventually come across, Raiden keeps on moving and once again comes face to face with Vamp, who is chilling out on top of high oxygen water, causing anyone that's not Vamp to sink for good. Vamp explains that he can sense muscles and the signals between the body and the brain, which allows him to predict movements even where a gun is going to be pointed at. But due to Raiden's skull suit and the difference it makes to his muscles, it allows Raiden to have an edge against Vamp. Vamp confirms Emma is alive and up ahead. Vamp lets Raiden know that despite the death of the President, there is still a purified hydrogen nuclear bomb for Arsenal to be used against the Patriots, mentioning that the Patriots lied about Dead Cell killing civilians, allowing them to take the fall. Due to their chatting, an announcement is made that Arsenal is ready and the final checks are almost done, allowing for Arsenal to become operational, meaning there is very little time left. After fucking up Vamp with the skull suit advantage and fighting against the powers of Naruto, Raiden comes out on top, and he gets moving extra quick to reach Emma in the locker room up ahead, with Snake and Otacon securing the computer room in Shell 1. Upon reaching the locker room, he finds EE hiding in a locker, and him with his gun out scares her into urinating herself. Which I now realise is an MGS1 reference. God, I'm dumb! He tells Emma that he needs her help to stop Arsenal, and that Otacon is waiting for her. Her absolute fear of water has her frozen, however, and EE doesn't believe that Otacon would show up, and that the water has some kind of hold on her. This is when Raiden tells her to just listen to his heartbeat and keep count with her eyes closed, to help her get through it. With Raiden's help, he and EE
managed to avoid drowning.
Emma talks about how she and Hal would used to play as kids, and him giving her a piggyback. She would used to listen to his heartbeat. They struggled with being alone, so they stuck by each other's side. Raiden has EE and Otacon chat, which quickly turns into an argument which Snake breaks up. With Shell 1 deserted, as everyone is on Arsenal, Raiden and Emma continue forward. Raiden talks about the virus that the President gave him, turning out to be originally made by Emma, being more like a worm cluster. She goes on to talk about the Patriots.
Ready for round 2 on these guys?
Emma talks more about GW. All this information and the new technology speeding up with every moment, and with all the uncontrolled information, the Patriots fear that they will be washed away with the flood of the new information. But with GW, it will allow the Patriots to control all digital information, even deleted before going public, like a huge censorship AI which helps shape the world as the Patriots see fit, and Arsenal helps protect the GW AI. GW isn't fully ready yet because the AI still isn't sure about what information to keep or delete, and an experiment was being planned before the terrorist insurrection. As Raiden and Emma reach past the flooded sections of Shell 2, blowing up some bugs and having a very weirdly jealous girlfriend, Raiden and Emma head to Strut L to head down to the oil fence to help them reach Shell 1 once more. During this whole Emma sequence we get one of the best music pieces of the game, Twilight Sniping, a perfect piece which resonates the espionage and the energy this game has going for it. When the duo reach the bottom of Strut L, Raiden notices the gun ciphers and guards up ahead, and with Snake's advice, Emma heads forward while Raiden does some sniping to protect Emma, even listening to our pal Johnny and making Emma think we're a bit of a clairvoyant. Raiden does his very best to protect her with Snake helping out too, until, out of nowhere, Vamp shows up, alive and well, holding Emma hostage. Raiden takes Vamp out from afar, however, it is too late. As Emma starts walking away from the ordeal, she collapses as Vamp has stabbed her. Snake reaches her and rushes her quickly to the computer room after trying to patch her up, but her injuries are bad. With Arsenal ready to launch, the countdown begins, with Raiden rushing to meet Snake, Otacon and the injured Emma in the computer room. Snake seems very weird and stuff, but all that is needed is the virus to be uploaded, which is done the moment Raiden arrives. However, Emma's injuries being very extensive with Vamp getting internal organs, she keeps bleeding. As the virus is being uploaded though...
Well, I guess that means that these won't work.
Emma confesses that she never wanted to hurt Hal and always wanted to see him again, never truly hating him. She believed that working on Arsenal would bring them closer together. As Emma lays there, she pleads with Otacon to call her Emma, before she dies in his arms.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you were here for Let's Kick Otacon in the Balls #1, I would like to welcome you to the sequel, Let's Kick Otacon in the Balls #2!
Hal confesses that his stepmother seduced him into a relationship, and his father committed suicide after finding out. As Emma lays there, her parakeet speaks to Otacon in her voice, destroying Otacon's soul even more. As the launch of Arsenal grows closer, Otacon is tasked with rescuing all the hostages, with Snake and Raiden planning on heading into Arsenal. As Otacon and Snake part ways, they do a badass handshake and a hug, all with a parakeet on his arm. Now, okay, holy fuck. Wolf dying was bad, sure, because he loved her and there was no choice but for her to die. But his fucking sister? And the parakeet speaking in her voice? Holy fuck, this is so sad! And it's so sad because he keeps calling her Emma, but only after she died. Oh my god, fuck! With Raiden and Snake stood in front of the door to Arsenal, Snake calls out to the ninja, who reveals themselves to be Olga, and tasing the fuck out of Raiden with her sword, knocking him out.
You're changing sides now?
Change sides? I don't recall saying I was on yours. Raiden, I'm on your side.
The big shell then sinks as Arsenal is launched. Otacon flees the sinking facility with the hostages in the Kamov, with my favourite detail being that the crude oil is actually the silhouette for Arsenal gear. Raiden wakes up in a familiar scene to be lying naked on a torture rack, imprisoned before Ocelot and Solidus, talking about how Solidus knows Raiden. Oh, and Solidus has 2 Doc Ock arms. Okay. Solidus reveals that the Patriots must have wiped parts of Raiden's memory, as in the 80s he was a child soldier, and at 10 years old he was the head of a small platoon and his skills were taught by Solidus, his godfather, earning him the nickname Jack the Ripper. Olga then walks into the torture room as Ocelot leaves with the virus program disc in his pocket. Staying hidden, Olga reveals that she was sent by the Patriots to help Raiden, because after being saved by Snake, she took the remaining Galukovich soldiers with her to New York and aligning herself and her men with an underground group while she was pregnant. The group, however, ended up being controlled by the Patriots. As she went into labour, the hospital she was in was also controlled by the Patriots. They had everything set up so that the Patriots could kidnap her newborn, forcing her to do their bidding. And Olga is now helping Raiden because if he fails, she has failed, and her child will be terminated. She reveals that she found out Snake and Otacon helped them to survive the tanker when we were walking around with Emma. Olga then says that everything that is going on and everyone involved, Raiden and everyone else, are just pawns for the S3 plan, which she doesn't elaborate on. She leaves Raiden by punching him in the gut to keep up the facade as she leaves to release Raiden. Rose then calls Raiden to know the truth. His past as a child soldier, it was way above extremely traumatic. He had no reason to fight except to eat and survive, with gunpowder mixed into the food to keep him and others controllable. Despite his memory manipulation, he always had nightmares, which is why he could never open up or sleep. He truly hates his past. Rose pleads with him to accept that she still loves him, yet he doesn't want her to accept the awful things he experienced and did, and with that he lets Rose go, to protect her, because should they get married and have a child, he will only ever see his past, an actually heartbreaking thing, as his restraints are released. And I think I mentioned this here, but throughout this game, every time we save, we are always hearing these two bicker, and we see their clearly dysfunctional relationship, which has some small moments that I can buy, but I mostly feel bothered by it, or just smothered. Like, these two don't work, or these things are so one-sided, it's a wonder they dated at all. It becomes a less well-written toxic romance and more a strange one-sided love which has a lot of annoying arguments that are weirdly written, and the scenes that are meant to sound romantic sound forced or off. The few scenes I really can believe is the call about how Rose and Jack met, this codec call and the codec call we're gonna hear in a little while, but it's just one of those sour points in the writing for me, personally, overall. Raiden, following Olga's word, heads forward through Arsenal to meet up with Snake to retrieve his gear, as he is literally naked right now.
No problem here. Huh? Wish I had that.
But, as he does, he starts receiving strange calls from Colonel Campbell, firstly stuttering and acting slightly out of character, then voice modulation, and then stranger comments, even going as far to tell the player to turn the game console off, which is so meta it's fucking nuts. It is without a doubt one of the craziest things in a video game I have ever experienced, all with increasingly weirder conversations with the Colonel with one of the best things I have ever heard.
Raiden, something happened to me last Thursday when I was driving home. I had a couple of miles to go. I looked up and saw a glowing orange object in the sky to the east. It was moving very irregularly. Suddenly, there was intense light all around me, and when I came to, I was home. What do you think happened to me?
Huh?
This section can be particularly scary as you have no weapons of any kind against a bunch of upgraded soldiers, which on harder difficulties you can actually encounter in the big shell if you're spotted. But with a useful cardboard box, we reach where Snake is meant to be waiting for us. After some more calls, Rose finally calls, revealing the truth. Her and Jack's meeting wasn't an accident, nor was running into each other again a coincidence. She was an informant for the Patriots, to keep an eye on the godchild of Solidus, to find out everything on him, acting out and playing her part, even changing her appearance to have Jack be drawn to her more. But she fell in love with him for real, which was not part of the job. This makes Raiden appropriately freak the fuck out, saying he wants basically nothing to do with her after the mission is done, before Rose reveals she is pregnant, before the transmission cuts out. After this, Snake shows himself, giving Raiden his gear back, including the sword that Olga was using as Mr. X. Raiden tells Snake the truth about his past, being a child soldier. Jack asks Snake what there is to fight for, what should there be to fight for, as he had never had a clear reason to fight. Snake gives the first of many very profound speeches on what to fight for, the future, and doing right by the world, and also finding something worth fighting for and to pass it on to the future. He also mentions that according to Olga, there are 25 mass-produced Metal Gear Ray units. As Raiden and Snake move forward, Otacon calls to let the duo know that all the hostages have been rescued, and Raiden asks Otacon to check in on the strange transmissions from the Colonel. And then these two masters in stealth almost immediately get spotted by a Cypher of all things. Like, come on guys. But that means a good time to get some practice in with the new sword because, believe me, we'll need it. As they move forward, Otacon contacts Raiden to let him know that the Colonel's origin signal is coming from inside Arsenal, and the encryption is the same as that of GW, meaning that we have been talking to the AI the whole time. The AI took expectations and thoughts to manipulate Raiden, and took hold of him, meaning the Colonel is partly his own creation, making Raiden naturally lose his fucking mind, because obviously you would. Despite being on the verge of a breakdown, Raiden keeps moving. The duo is then ambushed by a large group of Arsenal Tengu, which they both dispatch in a struggle. After which, Fortune makes her reappearance, blaming Snake for her father's death, vowing revenge and looking for a fight, which Snake accepts, telling Raiden to move on as their fight begins. Raiden then emerges in the photoshoot VR thing from MGS1, on top of Arsenal with Solidus' voice booming, talking about S3, which according to Solidus stands for Solid Snake Simulation, a program made by the Patriots to develop a perfect replication of Snake, with a perfect scenario shaping a person into a warrior with the scenario they presented. After this, Solidus sicks all of the Ray units on Raiden, because that's fucking fair. Thanks to Snake stocking up on Stinger missiles, Raiden blasts his way through Ray after Ray after Ray, opening up their cockpit area by damaging the knee and then shooting the fuck out of its face. Now, Metal Gear Ray is no joke. Rex was sturdier and definitely more of a tanky powerhouse, but Ray is faster and more nimble, and has those damn knee missiles again, and homing missiles too. Oh, and there's more than one. While the Rex fight was more of a fight to survive, the Ray unit fights are more of an unreal endurance round, which Raiden keeps up with until he is completely exhausted. As a Ray unit is about to crush him, he is saved by Olga, who reveals herself as the Patriot spy, to allow Raiden to escape to allow her child to survive. Solidus then shows himself, grabbing Olga and shooting her in the head at point blank. Her last words pleading for Raiden to survive. Solidus signals for the Ray units to finish Raiden off when the Ray units start going haywire along with the GW AI, with Arsenal making an emergency ascent course from the sea to Manhattan. Solidus then makes short work of the haywire Ray units with a jacked up P-90. He then goes to kill Raiden before realizing his usefulness, which is when Fortune arrives with a captured Snake. Raiden wakes up to Solidus revealing that GW is corrupted and broken. Solidus then calls out Fortune for her plan with the hydrogen bomb, confronting her about her plan to steal Arsenal from him, which he used Ocelot to suggest it to her in the first place. He then reveals his plan for finding the list of names of the Patriots, which was hidden inside GW, and with Fortune and the rest of Dead Cell drawing the Patriots as fire with the Arsenal gear, while Solidus went after the Patriots one by one. Ocelot then steps in to reveal the truth. Everything we have done so far has been scripted. The S3 plan was more than just shaping Raiden into Snake. It was every little thing. From Ames dying like Fox die, the ninja, the Fox die virus, the torture room, everything except the Fat Man, set up for the S3 training kernel. Dead Cell was just the set of freaks standing in for Foxhound, and Solidus and Jack was very similar to that of Big Boss and Snake's relationship. Ocelot then reveals that he killed Fortune's father, and having them throwing her husband in jail helped in stoking Fortune's lust for revenge, just as they wanted, so they could manipulate Dead Cell into doing what they wanted. Out of anger, Fortune goes to shoot Ocelot, but with a quick draw, Ocelot shoots Fortune easily, revealing that it was magnetic technology set up to stop any bullets from ever hitting her. Fortune musters up the strength to shoot at Ocelot, but it keeps missing as he is now using what was given to her. Solidus also tries to attack, but to no avail, which is when Ocelot hops into the original Ray unit, planning to take out Solidus, Raiden and Snake. As Ocelot fires missiles, Fortune steps forward and uses her natural psychic abilities to cause all the missiles to deflect away from them, proving herself as Lady Luck, revealing herself as Helena Dolph Jackson, the Commandant's daughter from the tanker, before dying. Ocelot then goes to use the laser, which is when his arm starts twitching once more as he witnesses Snake. And then he emerges from the Ray unit as Liquid Snake again. Liquid was always waiting for the right time to awaken to take out the Patriots, revealing that he leaked the info about Arsenal to Otacon to get Snake out into the fray, stating he was going after the Patriots knowing their location. He takes Ray to jump off Arsenal with Snake jumping in after it, the absolute madman, which is conveniently when Arsenal makes its crash landing into Manhattan. Now, I'll say this here, there was meant to be a scene of this crash, but it was cut naturally due to the September 11th attacks. It's crazy how many things like this happen, but scene or not, they crashed into Manhattan, landing on Federal Hall. Solidus then echoes Rose, asking what day it is, it being April 30th. Solidus tells Jack that all he ever wanted was to give the world true freedom, which the Patriots would never allow. He reveals that he wishes to pass things on to the future because he and his brothers were cloned, and their genetics manipulated with the ability to reproduce engineered out. Which, thinking about it, is a pretty fucking major bit of lore for the clones, and this point leads into one of the future games. After this, Raiden receives a call from the AI Colonel, still alive, revealing that it was only the GW AI that was destroyed, meaning there's more than one out there. They reveal that S3 never stood for Solid Snake Simulation, but actually Selection for Societal Sanity, not to control content, but to control context. All of digital society with its information and fake rhetoric are all contextualized as truth. It's all junk data, which the AI will fix, as the human culture and history and information is lost under the fake truths of the world, which the Patriots want to preserve in order to help humanity be shaped the way they believe is best for them. The real S3 plan is a success, as it is a system for controlling human free will because of the context laid out before people, just like Raiden having a Shadow Moses recreation with his expectations and what he was told, laid the context out to force a sort of fake free will. They wanted to generate ideas and force people to do things they believe is right by manipulating the events around the world. And if you remember something I said in the MGS1 review, when Snake feels the weight of all that backstabbing, he just keeps going with no questions asked, and I question, like, why didn't he just say fuck it and go home? But credit where it's due, Jack pretty much says, no thanks, I'm done, to the whole situation, but the AI forced Raiden to face Solidus, because if he doesn't, they will not kill only Olga's child, but Rose too. Solidus then hits Raiden with a massive fuck you by revealing that he murdered his parents to mold Jack into his own creation. Solidus gives Raiden his sword back so they may face each other. Solidus wants Raiden dead to retrieve his nanomachines to get the info on the Patriots due to how they manipulated him with the cerebral implants that altered his memory, leading to the final battle with Solidus, a sword fight on the roof of Federal Hall. After a lengthy drawn-out sword fight with flame skates and cutting up missiles, Raiden eventually gets the better of Solidus, cutting right through the spine of Solidus' suit, causing him to fall from the roof to his eventual death. As the dust settles with Raiden now at ground level, the emergency services arrive to take charge and recover, all while Raiden tries to understand who he is, really. When he meets face to face with Snake, who somehow survived cannonballing with Ray. And then he becomes really prophetic again, helping Raiden to choose his own destiny, allowing him to be free from the Patriots. Snake reveals that he gave Raiden a dummy disc for Ocelot to take, thinking it to be the real one, allowing Snake and Otacon to find the parameters for where the Patriots operate, and that following the Ray unit that Liquid was in, it was headed for a fake location anyway to throw anybody off. Snake says for Raiden to take a break, and that they will find Olga's child no matter what. Snake then pulls a Batman as Rose walks from the crowd to meet Raiden, freed from the Patriots' grasp. They both profess their love for each other, for real this time, including their unborn baby. Raiden then finally remembers what April 30th is. It is the day that he and Rose met, outside of Federal Hall. Raiden then makes a proposal to Rose for their future to come.
This is for your ears only.
Snake makes a call to Otacon about the information stored on the disc about the names of the Patriots and where they are. One of the names being one of philanthropy's biggest benefactors, meaning that the Patriots used them to fund the NGO to destroy Metal Gears. Snake asks where they really are, leading to Otacon revealing that they are already dead and have been for over 100 years, earning the appropriate response.
What the hell?
Hey, Vamp's alive, by the way.
So, if he's still alive after all that, we can discuss a few more things. But, Jesus fuck that plot. This game is full of so much stuff that works and some stuff that makes you...
It feels so much more than MGS1. From a national conspiracy to this. I can't put one thing on this game. You can't put one thing on this game. Or should I call it a movie? Because damn. If you skip the cutscenes and 20-minute codec calls, you have about 2 to 4 hours of gameplay if you're not fucking around too much. This game is very alienating to anyone starting here. MGS1 is pretty much required to get everything out of it, and I can't stress that enough. But most of this game is one of the finest Metal Gear experiences I've ever played. Although, in terms of hitting you with curveballs, this game is full of swerves, but none bigger than the main game being played as Raiden, this dorky blonde-haired tryhard. While he's definitely not as badass as Snake is, he is a fighter with heart, but with the personality of a kid trying to be cool in front of people in school. This game is an improvement over MGS1 in basically every way. From movement to gameplay, each little thing has been improved with lots of quality of life changes in terms of control and options for moving forward, such as dealing with the guards. I feel like there's an almost perfect balance of difficulty with options in nearly every area. One thing you'll notice is that the struts are all constructed like mini stealth challenges in different contained rooms, which are full of plenty of exploration. And in between these struts is where we're introduced to the connecting bridges, which are their own unique stealth challenges with more of a straight shot to a goal as opposed to just exploration like the struts have.
Also, take a shot every time one of the characters says hexagons if you want to pass out.
With the tanker, struts and bridges, they all come with some of the best trained guards ever. These guards can see you beyond their cone of vision, and if they do, they'll head towards where they saw you to investigate. If you get spotted properly, instead of an immediate alert sequence, depending on the area, the guard will first shoot your ass and then call for backup, allowing you to stop him before he does. If you do manage to stop him in the middle of his call for backup, a team of guards will be sent to find the guard that you've dealt with instead of just coming for you. However, one thing about dealing with guards now is the fact that their bodies remain on the ground. So if other guards see a dead body, they'll obviously go into a brand new caution state, causing the enemy to be heavily on guard and call for backup to help keep an extra eye out. If you put someone to sleep or knock them out, most of the time any other guard that sees the sleeping beauty will just kick the guard awake and that's that. But the best way of dealing with a body on the ground is hiding their body out of sight or in a locker. Or if they find the body before you can hide them, you can hide in the locker yourself too. Going into an alert sequence, however, guards will be on your ass, calling in higher armoured guards, some with riot shields, which you'll have to aim around because we have first-person aiming, which is goddamn perfection. It's so smooth and easy to do and helps especially in those alert sequences. But if I had to say anything, hiding is your best option now. More than ever, keeping out of sight is the best thing you want to do because in those alert sequences it will make things even harder to get away with thanks to the brand new AI for the enemies. They use endless combat tactics and effectively hide behind cover, making things harder for you. It's that, or you can avoid the situation altogether by shooting the guards' radio out, so even if they spot you, they can't call for help without leaving the area they're in. So keep your stealthing at its A-game, because if you're lax, you'll be struggling quite a bit in this game. MGS1 was a good way to prep your stealth, but MGS2 changes things to give you options to be more stealthy, but also punishes you for not taking those options, which works for the best. A total improvement from MGS1. One of those options, in which we take advantage of the new first-person shooting, is dealing with the surveillance cameras. If you're just stuck with the M9, you're better off using chaff like last time or using the blind spots underneath the camera. Or you can just fucking shoot it with a lethal weapon, causing it to be permanently switched off, allowing you to pass by it without ever worrying about it again. One of the other improvements is the control. Most things are the same, like selecting weapons and items, codec and stuff, but the way your character moves is buttery smooth. You can feel the weight of the character perfectly. Movement in this game just feels naturally better than before, and the hand-to-hand combat feels great too, and a lot more snappy and knocks your enemy out for quite a bit longer, indicated by the stars around the enemy's head. Another way to attack enemies, and also a new addition to movement, is the forward roll or the no-handed cartwheel, which feels just right, and a natural progression of your natural movement. Just don't use them on stairs. Combat just feels so much better, with the addition of first-person aiming, and viewing things in first person feels a lot more natural because it's moved from the triangle button to the R1 button, and shooting is the same as before. Hold down the square button to aim, and push hard and rapidly to fire. But there is also something revolutionary in this game, and that is called pressure-sensitive controls. When aiming, you can slowly release the pressure on the aiming button to put the gun away without ever firing a shot. The first-person aiming can also allow you to be extremely precise, and in higher difficulties, you need to be accurate with your shots. Body shots will either just hurt the enemy into a small stun, or the tranquilizer shots will take longer to effect. But headshots will put someone to sleep right away, or sleeping permanently. Or you can peek around a corner and go hold an enemy up. Just stand behind a bad guy, aim at their back to get them to freeze, and then aiming at sensitive areas to cause the guards to drop their dog tags or other items. The dog tags are pretty important because if you collect enough of them, you'll unlock the usual stealth and infinite ammo. Raiden will also get the wigs for infinite grip gauge or infinite O2. The gameplay and new mechanics introduced for this game is one of the best steps forward for the series as, you guessed it, it once again pushes the boundaries of its system, with great use of mocap, camera angles and direction. The story and cutscenes are definitely a lot more intensive and lengthier, with cutscenes reaching as long as 43 minutes and 16 seconds. So, grab some food and drink and sit back and relax when cutscenes and codec calls kick in, because god damn there's a lot of codec calls, to the point I think it might be a detriment. There's moments when characters will engage in a codec conversation even when standing right in front of each other, with everyone using the same excuse to stop people from eavesdropping in on the characters, but it's just an excuse not to worry about animating particularly long cutscenes, which I get but feels lazy, you know? Despite that, the voice acting is about on par with the last game, if not better, although it can sound a little bit cheesy at times, which is fine, but I think I've gone off track long enough. Dealing with guards is better than ever before, but if you deal with them, you need to hide their body. Stopping a guard from calling backup, they'll investigate the area for the guard who made the initial call. Even needing to reach the nodes to activate the radar in normal difficulties and higher is a great added layer of difficulty which feels fair and adds a goal for each of the struts that have them, which helps due to what I said earlier with each of the struts feeling like their own unique stealth challenges full of exploration. Now, I grant you, a lot of these struts have their place, but some are just walk through this door and then this door. And yeah, we're mostly stuck to Shell 1, with Shell 2 being a huge linear story path with little in exploration. But mostly, they all have their unique challenges which keeps you on your toes. But that's the main game. If we're talking generally though, I personally prefer the tanker's overall design and structure, as its areas feel more akin to Shadow Moses. It also feels bigger and more grander in each of its areas, where the struts of the big shell are more contained and less open. I also adore the rain and wind effects of the tanker as opposed to the sunshine of the big shell. The areas of the tanker also feel more unique because of the design of the big shell being purposefully designed with symmetry in mind. And Arsenal gear is just one massive dangerous hallway. Our team over codec is pretty okay, but other than the Colonel, Rose and Snake, everyone else feels very situational, and 3 of these people end up dying on us, so it feels like you can only call them, or in Olga's case, receive codec calls, but once their story arc is done, which ends with them kicking it, it feels very, yep, that's over and done with. Like, for example, the final fight with Solidus, you only have 3 people to call, 2 crazy AIs and Otacon, that is it. Now, this isn't the worst thing, because even though I've complimented this game quite a lot, it definitely isn't perfect, and it has its share of problems. For one, which isn't the worst thing in the world to me, it's of course the change from Snake to Raiden. A lot of people really weren't happy about this, to the point that they were cursing out Kojima and shit like that. My only sour point I can get from it is, hey, we were advertised a game with Solid Snake, and now we're playing as this pretty boy? Is Snake like a poster boy for the first part of the story, like Bryan Cranston in Godzilla? If you're that upset about playing as Raiden in the Big Shell, play Snake Tales in these 5 mini-missions. These are small, bite-sized, self-contained alternate universe stories where you control Snake in the big shell dealing with different situations, like meeting with Ames to kill Fat Man who kidnapped the president, or Snake who's with the SEALs, tasked with taking out Vamp, or my personal favourite, which introduces the VR missions for MGS2 and tying it into a story with an alternate universe and a Godzilla Galukovich monster. They're very strange and odd at times, and don't do much to the main game, but it's how you're ever going to play as Snake in the big shell. Other than that, it's really no big deal, other than the changes in like rolling. Snake rolls and Raiden cartwheels. Snake has a 3-part melee combo, Raiden has a 4-hit melee combo. But that's it really, and there's no real problem with that. Raiden's vocal performance isn't as stellar as Snake's, but it's fine and doesn't do anything really wrong. Solidus as a villain is clever and cunning, and his goals are led with hate of the Patriots, but because of that it gets the better of him. He's nowhere near as cheesy as Liquid was, but he is actually written extremely well, with John Seigan nailing the performance of Solidus really nicely. Vamp's character is a little confusing at times, but Phil LaMarr brings out a sinister side that feels just right for the character's debut here. Fat Man is nuts. He almost feels like his own entity in this story, damn near feeling like a subplot, but damn if he isn't entertaining. Fortune, however, I mostly do not give a shit about. So she can't be hurt by guns and shit, that's her thing. But she has an overwhelming depression due to her losing everything around her, to the point she's suicidal as fuck, but it mostly comes off as a forced sadness and angst. Now I say mostly don't give a shit because her feelings and character for most of the game is blah. But on top of Arsenal, seeing her reaction to being played by the Patriots is actually quite heartbreaking.
Emma's story's so fucking sad.
Jennifer Hale returns to Metal Gear as Hal's dorky sister, and does a great job acting as a brat, but a well-spoken scientist and a very human character. Her entire arc is sad as fuck, and messed up looking back due to something we put together when we meet a certain scientist in Metal Gear Solid 5. With Olga, I feel she wasn't focused on enough, sadly. Like, I can feel her motivations, and I would have liked to hear those conversations between her and Snake a little more, but despite her child being the main arc at the end, it feels very secondary to the overarching story, which is a shame as there's a lot of stuff there to work with, but it never is. Ocelot once again is showing off being the fucking king of all Metal Gear characters. His snide comments, his hidden agenda, and triple crossing is brilliant. This is where he really kicks into being the best, because he's got a goal for sure, but he's smart at keeping it from everyone. Also, he has Liquid's arm, and that's just fucking cool. And I've already spoken up about Raiden and Rose enough, so I'm just gonna move on now. Now, this game can be cheesy as fuck at times, but it's mostly played for real, even if it's easily some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. MGS2 is definitely one of the games I have replayed the most, and feeling I either understand more or less about the story. I won't even pretend to say that I understood anything about the story as a kid from like Ames onward. Nowadays it makes a little more sense and I can appreciate the themes it's trying to present, but I'm no expert on this shit, just a guy reading and interpreting the story and themes as they are presented to me. Now, Metal Gear Solid 2 is absolutely brimming with content, from even the original's release. Just having the base game, it also came with a development disc named The Making of Metal Gear Solid 2, with a 50-minute documentary with Kojima talking plenty about his artistic direction and vision for the game's story, and the ideas they wanted to go around with like stealth and infiltration aspects, but also the curveball with Raiden. And of course, the references to movies being everywhere, not to mention Kojima playing with Legos again. It is absolutely fascinating, and I highly recommend checking it out as it goes even deeper than MGS1 before it, with Motosada Mori returning as military advisor and more on-scene location inspiration recreated with meticulous detail, as well as a Hollywood caliber soundtrack led by Harry Gregson Williams, who at the time was well known for The Rock, Chicken Run, Spy Kids, Phone Booth, and of course Shrek, which Kojima clearly loved. This soundtrack is absolutely unreal. It has slow ambience which reflect each individual area, and with every area having different levels of music layered on, dependent on if you are unseen, in caution, in an evasion, or having an alert, the music reflects that, and then some. With a perfect balance of tension and relaxation, and at times even dread. The cinematic cutscenes are also full of energy and definitely at the level of an action movie. but I also want to bring special mention to the boss themes, particularly Yell, Dead Cell. Holy fuck, that is a great fucking song. Harry Gregson Williams becomes the stable composer for the rest of the main series now, and I have to say, that is a great call. He did some fantastic work in this game. This game really is on another level, and this development disc really shows it off, and we also get to hear one of my favourite unexpected lines ever.
Talking about sexy characters, Vamp is perhaps the best example.
Moving on then.
The version of MGS2 I'm looking at is the HD collection on the Legacy collection. This version is based off of the special edition of the original, released on the PS2, called MGS2 Substance, which is what has the Snake Tales and also a brand new collection of VR missions, over 300 of them at that. And this version in particular has a weird skateboarding minigame with Raiden and Snake skating and grinding around the big shell, based off of the engine for the Evolution skateboarding game, but sadly, this isn't on the HD collections, which makes sense, but still kinda sad. And yet again, another way to experience Metal Gear Solid 2 is with the novelization once again written by Raymond Benton. This time around, it feels a lot more accurate to the game itself, even going as far as relating to moments in-game, like if you take a picture of a bikini model in the tanker sequence, Snake exclaims,
Good.
Compared to the first novel of MGS1, which was a bit hokey and had a lot of choices, the MGS2 retelling is actually pretty faithful, with pretty much everything being intact, with a few extra added bits of substance. Yeah, get it? And once again, you can experience MGS2 through the lens of the digital graphic novel. Now, I mentioned with MGS1's version, it took major liberties in storytelling with a certain level of self-awareness. In MGS2's case, holy crap, okay, so, with the digital graphic novel, there is so much self-awareness and extra turns because if you know the story of MGS2 inside and out, it throws heavy curveballs at you. How do I put this? You know how in Final Fantasy VII Remake, how the story basically follows the same beats and direction, but with things being different enough to give you major mindfucks? Yeah, that. Like, us knowing the Colonel being an AI for the GW, but also knowing how the story should be played out. For example, the first biggest difference is how much Pliskin is helping out, and Fat Man bombs Shell 1, Fortune fights Raiden very early on, Fat Man and Solidus having major disagreements, Fat Man and Mr. X having a conversation about orders from, obviously, the Patriots, but even bigger still is when Raiden brings Stillman to the heliport where Fat Man is waiting, which is very different from the game, and Raiden is using Stillman to get the better of Fat Man by challenging Fat Man to disarm a C4, but using Fat Man's pride against him, allowing Stillman to survive, for a little while at least. Raiden is met with anger by the Colonel because of this, due to the roles being changed and the simulation being different. Ocelot also has serious mindfuckery with the liquid in his head. Mr. X confronts Snake as Pliskin to help defeat the Patriots behind the scenes. Much like the graphic novel for MGS1, it's very different and self-aware, but really quite enjoyable, especially if you know the MGS story well. I recommend it. Though it's a bit of an alienating experience for newcomers, in terms of a sequel to MGS1, everything has been improved from every aspect, from control to even button layout, just in the way characters feel to control. It's a step up, and easily one of the best experiences on the PS2, easily era-defining, and one of the games I think of when you say PlayStation 2. Easily one of the games which is brimming full of replayability, from going after each of the dog tags in each of the difficulty to get the bandana and stealth, the methods used to go about the struts, even the tanker, and tons of optional codec calls. There's literal hours of extra content on the codec from even the smallest action you do as the player. There is so much more that can be done, but I think I've pretty much covered everything. Well, at least I think it's hard to say much more that hasn't already been said. So, what say we wrap this up?
Christ. This video has been one of the most intimidating projects for me. And yes, it's gone on long enough. If it wasn't clear enough, this game blew up and was the follow-up to MGS1 and then some. But with a story as batshit insane as this one, with all of its complex themes, people needed a bit of a break after the game came out, despite its overwhelmingly positive reception, which is why next time, things get a bit simpler for the next game. So join me when we take a look at Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater for the PS2. I hope you all enjoyed this video, as long as it was. Sorry about that. I hope you all stay safe, wear a mask if you decide to go outside, get vaxxed if possible, and most importantly, I hope you all have a good one. Okay, I'm just going to ramble for a little bit. Other than this being fucking intimidating, I don't have a script for this, so if I mumble and fumble, that's why. Sorry for the length of this video and also how long it took to get out. I was stupid when I first started doing the reviews. One, I thought I knew what I was doing, as we all do, and also I decided I know what I'll do. I'll hold them off so I can release them like in a good schedule. I'm not gonna do that anymore. Also, you probably noticed at the start of this video, no fucking music video. Yeah, that was one of the things that put me off from starting this video in the first place. As I thought it was gonna be a really unique thing for me to cover each of the songs and stuff, but it was so... like, I enjoyed doing it, don't get me wrong. Like, learning the theme of Solid Snake, I loved doing that. But when you have to record a music video where you, like, a week or so after you've recorded the song, and then you're like, wait, which notes are which? Okay, I think it's these. Let me try and sync this up, because obviously the video doesn't match up to the song. And I'll admit this here, in the first Metal Gear review, when I did plug in stuff to make, to record the video, I forgot to take out the audio from the video so I can put the audio in, so you can hear me actually playing guitar underlying the actual songs, and I can hear it every time and it grates my fucking ears. So just because it's a lot of pressure and it put me off from doing the video for so long, I'm gonna stop doing the music videos. I might do something in the future, I'm not sure, but in order to express myself with these video games that are a very big part of my life, I thought it might be a good idea to just try and do something unique in my own way in like this, rather than, kill myself with the music video. So that's the reason why. So yeah, I've rambled on enough. I hope you all have a great day and stay safe.